Netflix's new zombie heist film, Army of the Dead, features a large cast of characters and includes several surprising twists. So if the ending of Army of the Dead left you with some questions, here's a handy explanation of the movie's ending. Early in the film, Kate's friend Geeta sneaks into the city of Las Vegas with the help of the coyote Lily. She never comes back out, prompting Kate to go try to find her. But why did Geeta go into the city in the first place? The surviving citizens of Las Vegas were put into quarantine camps. The official purpose of the camps is to contain the zombie outbreak, but the film indicates that they're actually being used more as internment camps.
Oh, come on, Sean. You know they're not infected. If they were, there would be zombies already. They're political prisoners, just people the government doesn't want on the streets.
The only way out of the camps is via bribery, which many achieve by breaking into Las Vegas to collect cash. Geeta's plan is to crack a slot machine and use the money to purchase freedom for her and her 2 kids. Most zombie movies tend to only have one type of undead monster, but Army of the Dead has 3. The first is the original zombie Zeus, who functions as the zombie king throughout the film. When Zeus bites a person, they become an alpha, which are the intelligent, fast-moving zombies that make up most of the encounters in Army of the Dead. These zombies are organized and also understand their own physical limitations, making them formidable foes. When the alphas bite someone, those people become shamblers, the slow-moving creatures we typically find in zombie movies. Shamblers can only make more shamblers and aren't capable of complex thought or organization. They also don't have any awareness of their own needs, which leads to many of them remaining in the sun for so long that they desiccate. Lily says that when it rains, the shamblers will reanimate for a couple of hours, although we never see that happen. Unlike traditional zombies who are driven entirely by instinct, the alphas in Zombie King and Army of the Dead appear to be up to something more complex. Lily says she never figured out exactly what the alpha zombies are doing, but we get a few clues. The first is that the people the alphas capture are not immediately eaten or turned by the zombies, but are taken to Zeus to be turned into alphas. This suggests that he doesn't just want more zombies in general, but specifically more alphas. The second is when we learn that Zeus's queen is pregnant. Although we have no idea how 2 zombies were able to conceive a child, its inclusion points to the idea that Zeus is intentionally building a zombie civilization. Maybe he plans to eventually form an actual army and venture out into the world to conquer other civilizations and bring them under his control. Unfortunately for him, Las Vegas gets hit with a nuclear bomb, wiping out the new race he's creating before they can attempt to expand beyond the walls of the city. As Ward's team pushes further into the ruins of Las Vegas, they come across the remains of other teams that appear to have been on the same mission. They deduce that this must not be the first time that Tanaka has hired a team to recover his abandoned cash, but the other teams failed. At one point, while examining the remains of a team outside the safe, Vanderohe muses that the other teams are, in fact, themselves caught in an infinite time loop of death and failure. Is this a hint that Army of the Dead actually is some sort of macabre Tenet-like world of interwoven timelines? Well, probably not. Most likely, the other teams were exactly that, other teams that died in pursuit of their mission. Vanderohe's comment is meant more to draw attention to the similarities between them and to foreshadow their ultimate failure than to imply that the other teams were literally them. While Ward and the rest of the team are under the impression that the most valuable thing in Las Vegas was the giant pile of cash in the casino vault, Martin knows better. His secret mission is to bring back the head of a zombie for Tanaka, giving his boss the ability to create his very own Army of the Dead. The fact that Martin is on board with this plan speaks to his callousness, since he doesn't think twice about all the people that zombie army could hurt. So it's not shocking that once he has what he wants, he doesn't hesitate to betray his whole team and attempt to leave them behind, eager to keep the spoils of the mission all for himself. Ironically, this lack of basic human decency turns out to be his downfall, since if he'd had some backup, he may have avoided becoming zombie tiger food. Despite its disastrous end, you can't say that Ward didn't plan his heist well. His team is solid, composed of himself, expert safecracker Dieter, helicopter pilot Marianne Peters, guide Lily, his trusted zombie war allies Maria and Vanderohe, additional sharpshooters Mikey and Chambers, and Tanaka's head of security Martin. At the last minute, his daughter Kate strong-arms her way onto the team, and Lily recruits the deplorable Cummings. Cummings is the first to fall, with Lily shooting him in the leg and leaving him as a sacrifice for the zombies. He's turned into an alpha by Zeus and later killed by Kate. Chambers is next to go after being abandoned in a zombie-packed building by Martin, although she fights valiantly and takes out scores of the undead along with her. The rest make it into the vault, where they are betrayed and locked in by Martin. That decision comes back to bite him, literally, when Martin is then shredded by a zombie tiger. As for the others, Maria gets her neck snapped by zombies when they break into the bank vault, and Mikey blows himself up after getting bitten while trying to escape. Dieter holds his own for a while, but ultimately sacrifices himself to save Vanderohe, shutting his friend in the safe as he's swarmed by zombies. Lily provides a distraction long enough for Ward and Peters to escape on the helicopter, only to be rewarded for her trouble with a pole through the chest. Against all odds, a few members of Ward's team do make it out of Sin City, although some of them don't last very long afterward either. Vanderohe eventually climbs out of the safe after the nuclear blast and boards a plane to Mexico, only to realize while in the air that he's been infected by the zombie virus. As for Ward, he's bitten by Zeus when the zombie king leaps onto the helicopter. During their struggle, Peters is shot in the shoulder, impeding her ability to fly. She does her best to stay airborne, but ultimately crashes in the desert and is killed on impact. Geeta is also on board the helicopter, but we never see her after the crash, implying that she likely dies. Kate is the only one who survives relatively unscathed. Ward gives her the small pile of cash he's managed to hold on to, but then begins to transform into a zombie and is shot in the head by a tearful Kate. While they're successful in breaking into the safe and locating the cash, Ward's team is destined not to get very far with it. Much of the money remains in the safe, shut in with Vanderohe until the end of the film. The others try to take some money with them at first, but either abandon it or are killed while holding it. Most of the money either gets destroyed in the bombing of Las Vegas or is entombed forever in the safe. However, Ward does manage to pocket a small stack of bills, which isn't much compared to the fortune in the safe, but is still likely somewhere around $50,000. He passes it to Kate before he dies, telling her to use it to buy freedom for Geeta's kids. And Vanderohe makes it out with 3 bags, likely holding a few million, which he uses to charter a plane to Mexico City. Unfortunately, he realizes mid-flight that he's been bitten, meaning all that cash isn't likely to do him much good. We never learn exactly why Vanderohe remained in the safe for so long after Dieter shut him in. Perhaps he passed out, or he was waiting until he could be sure the zombies outside were gone, or maybe he was waiting for the nuclear blast. Whatever his motivation for remaining in the safe for a few hours, it saves his life, at least for a little while. Ironically, knowing that Vanderohe and his bags of money could successfully weather a nuclear blast inside that safe, it becomes clear that if Tanaka's intent really was to recover the money, there was no need to rush in before the city was destroyed. He could have waited to send in a team until after the strike, when all the zombies were dead. That really would have been the simple in-and-out mission he pitched to Ward. All we know about Tanaka is that he's a billionaire who owns at least one casino and who is famous enough that Ward recognizes him the minute he walks into his diner. He says that insurance has already paid out the money that was in the safe, but that he wants the cash anyway. However, we later learn that the entire scheme is a ruse to get Martin into the city in order to steal a zombie head so Tanaka can create more of them, which Martin calls the ultimate weapon of mass destruction.
Tanaka doesn't give a about the money.
We never learn what Tanaka wanted an army for, or whether he had any personal desire for conquest at all. Perhaps he simply wanted to be in possession of the world's greatest superweapon for the purposes of power and profit, and didn't care what happened as a result. Although Army of the Dead ends with Las Vegas turned into a pile of rubble, the film does leave the door open for zombies to remain in the world in any of several ways. First, there is the possibility that the virus has already spread beyond the borders of Las Vegas. The film doesn't give any hard evidence of this, but it's clear that the government is concerned about it. Additionally, since we don't know where Zeus came from, it's always possible there might be more like him somewhere else. But of course, the strongest bit of evidence that zombies still exist in the world of Army of the Dead is the reveal at the end of the film that Vanderohe is himself infected. Of course, there's always the possibility that he could be killed or contained while on the plane so that the virus doesn't spread beyond him. But given the rest of the bad luck in Army of the Dead, the infection stopping with Vanderohe seems unlikely. Plans have already been greenlit for an Army of the Dead prequel and anime series, but we can't rule out the possibility of a direct sequel either, despite the film's high body count. A sequel could continue Vanderohe's open-ended storyline once his plane lands in Mexico. Perhaps he becomes the new zombie king, or maybe he defies the odds yet again and figures out how to stop his infection from spreading. This seems to be the most clearly defined path towards setting up a spin-off storyline through an established character. Another option is following Kate after she frees Geeta's children from the quarantine camps. Maybe she fulfills her father's dream of opening a food truck, only to once again be pulled back into the zombie wars. The sequel can also branch off onto a new path entirely, following a different group of characters through a new zombie outbreak. Maybe what happens in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas after all. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite new movies are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.